If you've been running for years and your 10K is still stuck just over 1 hour, I need you to hear this. The problem isn't effort, discipline, or motivation. It's something far more uncomfortable. Your body was never trained to cross that line. I'm gonna say something that might sting a little. If you've been running 10 kilometers for months, maybe years, and your time keeps hovering just over 1 hour, the problem is probably not your discipline. It's not your motivation. And it's definitely not that you don't want it enough. I know that feeling because I lived there. I trained consistently. I finished running exhausted. I did everything a serious runner is supposed to do. And still, every race ended the same way. Close, but never under 62 minutes. 61. Sometimes close enough to believe that next time would be different. What bothered me wasn't the number on the clock. It was the question I couldn't shake. Why does breaking 60 minutes feel like crossing into a different world? Same distance, same roads, same body. Yet somehow runners who go under don't just look faster. They move differently, breathe differently, recover differently. It's like an invisible line exists, and once you cross it, the rules change. So I stopped asking how to push harder. I started asking something far more uncomfortable. What actually changes inside the body in 60 minutes? Before we go any further, if you care about understanding running beyond motivation and cliches, about learning the science that actually moves the needle, take a second to subscribe to the channel. It's how you support deeper, more honest conversations like this. And it helps me keep making videos that go beyond surface-level advice. Because what you're about to hear isn't about trying harder. It's about discovering why effort alone was never enough, and why the answer has been hiding in your physiology this whole time. Why 60 minutes feels different. Once that question took hold, I started seeing the 1 hour mark differently. Not as a goal, but as a boundary. From the outside, 59 minutes and 61 minutes look almost identical. 2 minutes, a small margin. But the more I paid attention, the clearer it became that something fundamental separates those two sides. People who run just over an hour are still running. People who run under it are doing something else entirely. The mistake I made for years was believing that this gap could be closed with willpower. That if I just suffered a little more on race day, held on a little longer, the line would eventually give way. But that idea quietly collapsed when I noticed something uncomfortable. I was already giving everything I had. What changes at 60 minutes isn't desire, it isn't courage, and it isn't pain tolerance. It's the way the body organizes itself under stress. At a sub-60 pace, the body is no longer managing effort conservatively. It's operating near the upper limits of how much oxygen it can process, minute after minute, without falling apart. That's why the rhythm feels different. The breathing is different. The posture is different. Even the recovery afterward feels different. That's when it clicked for me. The 60-minute barrier isn't an achievement you push through. It's a physiological line you either adapt to or bounce off, no matter how hard you try. Once I accepted that this line was physiological, not psychological, the next uncomfortable step was obvious. I had to look honestly at how I was training. So I did something I had avoided for a long time. I opened my watch history and stopped looking at distance, medals, or weekly totals. I looked only at pace. 10 runs in a row. And that's when the pattern jumped out at me. Everything lived in the same narrow band. Not easy enough to feel relaxed, not hard enough to feel sharp. Just that familiar effort where breathing is controlled, but never calm, where every run feels productive because it leaves you tired. At the time, I thought this was consistent. In reality, it was repetition without direction. Biologically, this middle ground is a dead zone. It's too intense to build deep aerobic efficiency, and too gentle to force the body to develop speed or tolerance to high stress. The body thrives on clarity. When the signal is mixed, it doesn't adapt, it protects. That explains something that had frustrated me for years. I wasn't getting fitter, yet I was always fatigued. I wasn't recovering faster, yet I was running the same pace again and again. I wasn't stuck because I lacked effort. I was stuck because my training was asking my body to become everything at once. And it chose to become nothing new. Once I saw that my training was sending mixed signals, the next question became unavoidable. What signal does a sub-60 runner's body actually respond to? That question led me straight to VO2 max, a term I used to hear but never really confront. I always thought of it as something abstract, maybe genetic, something elite runners worried about, while the rest of us just logged miles. But the more I learned, the more personal it became. VO2 max isn't a concept, it's a ceiling. And I had been running into mine without realizing it. A 10K under an hour isn't a relaxed aerobic effort. It's sustained work at the upper edge of how much oxygen your body can process. You're not cruising anymore. You're hovering just below overload for nearly 60 minutes. That's why everything feels tighter at that pace. The breathing, the heart rate, the margin for error. Here's the mistake I made for years. I tried to raise that ceiling by running more of the same steady miles. But steady running never asks the body to process oxygen at its limit. It teaches efficiency below the ceiling, not expansion above it. You don't raise capacity by avoiding the edge. You raise it by touching it, briefly and intentionally. Short exposures to very high demand are what force the heart and lungs to grow stronger. Until I understood that, I wasn't training my limit at all. I was just circling beneath it, wondering why it never moved. But even as I began to understand the limits of my engine, another truth started to surface. Having power means very little if you waste it. I noticed this the first time I really watched runners who broke 60 with ease. Not from the front, not by their faces, but from the side, in motion. Their stride looked lighter, almost quieter. Nothing about it screamed effort, yet they were moving faster than I ever had at that pace. That's when I ran into the idea of running economy, and it forced me to confront something uncomfortable. I wasn't losing time because I was weak. I was losing it because I was inefficient. The physics are simple. When your leg swings forward like a long pendulum, it costs energy. The longer and heavier that swing, the more oxygen you burn just to move yourself through space. Most recreational runners carry their leg low, never fully folding it. It feels controlled, but it's expensive. Efficient runners do the opposite. The heel snaps upward, shortening the lever. The leg recovers quickly, not because of force, but because of mechanics. Cadence rises naturally, not through effort, but through structure. What hit me hardest was this realization. You can run thousands of miles and never fix this. Endurance alone doesn't clean up movement. Without attention, repetition simply locks inefficiency in place. I had been building fitness on top of a leaking system, and no amount of aerobic work could compensate for the energy I was bleeding away with every step. Once I started seeing how much energy I was wasting just to move, another familiar enemy came back into focus. That burning sensation I had always been taught to fear. For as long as I can remember, lactate has been framed as the villain. The moment my legs started to burn, I assumed I was crossing into dangerous territory. That slowing down was the smart, disciplined choice. Pain meant failure. Pain meant I had gone too far. But when I finally looked closer, that story fell apart. That burning point has a name: the onset of blood lactate accumulation. It's not where the body breaks, it's where it starts producing fuel faster than it can move it. Lactate itself isn't waste, it's energy. High-quality energy that the heart and other muscles are eager to use. The real problem wasn't that I was producing lactate, it was that I didn't have the system to clear it. Without enough transport proteins to move lactate out of the muscle, it gets trapped. Acidity rises, the burn intensifies, and the body sends a powerful signal to stop, not because it's out of fuel, but because the fuel is stuck in the wrong place. That's when another uncomfortable truth surfaced. My training had never forced my body to solve this problem. The efforts were always moderate, never intense enough to flood the system, never specific enough to demand adaptation. I wasn't training my tolerance for discomfort. I was training my body to avoid it. Even after understanding the body's energy systems, there was still one moment I couldn't explain. That instant, late in a race when everything inside me seemed to shut down at once. It usually happened around the same point. The pace hadn't changed. My form hadn't collapsed. Yet suddenly, my legs felt empty, my breathing felt panicked, and a voice in my head grew louder than everything else, telling me this was the limit. For a long time, I believed that voice. I thought it meant I was done. What changed was learning that this sensation doesn't come from the muscles first, it comes from the brain. The brain's job is protection, not performance. Long before the body reaches true physical failure, the brain reduces the signal sent to the muscles to preserve a safety margin. It's not a weakness, it's a built-in governor. The uncomfortable part was realizing how early mine was activating. I hadn't trained my nervous system to recognize high-intensity work as survivabiling. To it, sustained discomfort was unfamiliar territory, so it stepped in quickly and aggressively. Runners who consistently train at high intensities don't have stronger brains. They have recalibrated ones. Repeated exposure teaches the nervous system that this level of stress isn't a threat. That's why they can stay composed when everything feels overwhelming. That insight reframed the entire experience of fatigue for me. What I had labeled as being spent was often just my brain pulling the handbrake too early, long before the engine or the muscles had truly run out of capacity. Once I understood that the limit wasn't just muscular or metabolic, but also neurological, the entire picture finally came into focus. Everything I had struggled with traced back to the same mistake, trying to train every system at once. Every day I wanted endurance, speed, strength, and confidence, all in the same run fast. And my body responded by choosing the safest option: stagnation. Polarized training isn't a trendy method, it's a biological requirement. Easy runs exist to build structure, capillaries, mitochondria, connective tissue, and calm control. They teach the body to move efficiently without stress. Hard sessions exist for a different reason entirely. They stretch the ceiling, flood the system, and force adaptations that comfort never will. The middle ground feels productive, but it solves nothing. It dulls the engine without sharpening it. Once I separated my training with intention, truly easy days and truly demanding ones, something unexpected happened. I wasn't any more tired, I was clearer. That clarity marked the real transition, not from slow to fast, but from guessing to understanding. This is the point where jogging quietly ends and training, deliberate, purposeful training, actually begins. And once that shift happened, I stopped seeing the 1 hour mark as a wall and started seeing it as a message. If you're hovering just above 60 minutes, that number isn't judging you. It's pointing at something unfinished. It's telling you that your body hasn't been given the right instructions yet, not that it lacks the ability to follow them. That realization changed the way I thought about progress. Breaking 60 was no longer about courage on race day. It was about patience in training, precision in effort, and the willingness to let biology lead instead of ego. If this story feels familiar, take a moment and write your current 10K time and the number you're chasing. Naming where you are is often the first step toward leaving it behind. And if you want to keep exploring what actually moves performance, how mechanics, physiology, and the nervous system work together, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel and stay with me. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about understanding your body well enough to finally let it do what it was capable of all along. When I look back at this journey, the biggest lesson isn't really about running at all. It's about how often we confuse effort with progress. We work hard, stay busy, feel tired, and assume we're moving forward, when in reality, we may just be repeating the same pattern more efficiently. Real change doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing things with clarity, intention, and an understanding of how systems actually respond. Running taught me that growth happens when stress is applied at the right dose and rest is treated as part of the process, not a weakness. That lesson carries far beyond sport. In work, in learning, in life, progress comes from asking better questions, not forcing louder answers. Now I'm curious to hear from you. Do you think you've been stuck because you weren't trying hard enough? Or because you were trying without a clear structure? Leave your thoughts in the comments so we can learn from each other. And if this kind of content helps you think deeper, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support is what keeps these conversations going.